I mean, this sounds like mind-blowing to people. How have you not paid taxes and stayed out of jail?
Because I'm simply following the law, because there is no law requiring to file and pay federal income taxes to begin with. It's a deception, it's the lie.
So this is criminality.
Yeah.
How ironic is that? Criminals are using criminal law to try to catch people.
These people have been brainwashed through the propaganda that we need the government. Government is the solution. No, government is the problem.
You left Iran before the revolution.
Well, I was fortunate. I came at age 14, and literally a few months later, the revolution started. CIA is the one that did all this.
If you just stop stealing from and killing people, then everyone would be more rich and more prosperous.
Constitution grants us no rights. All it does is there to guarantee the rights that God gave to each of us as when we were born.
It does sound too good to be true to me, but I don't know enough to refute any of it. So you have not paid federal income taxes legally in 30 years.
Over 30 years.
30 years.
Yes.
How in the world have you accomplished that feat?
I went to a seminar in 1992. I was educated about tax law. And by the end of that presentation, it was pretty clear to me that we, the American people, had been hoodwinked to pay federal income taxes that we never legally owed in the first place. So I just started educating myself, latched on to anybody out there in the freedom, patriot movement, who knew something about the income tax and the U.S. Constitution. And I followed the lead of the smartest, wisest people that could find out there. And I've been continuing to educate myself and educate others. And here I am after 30 years. IRS knows me very well. I've been under criminal investigation or other investigations by the IRS since 1994, continuously.
Through today, 2025.
Currently, I'm under criminal investigation too. Who probably some other investigation too. And here I am. I do broadcasts online and do seminars and publicly tell people, you've been deceived. You do not need to pay income tax or payroll taxes, corporate taxes, estate taxes, gambling taxes, or federal gun manufacturing taxes, just like me.
So, you obviously pay sales tax when you buy, stuff at the store, right?
Yes.
You can't really avoid that one. Besides sales tax, do you pay any other taxes?
Gas tax.
Gas tax.
Okay. If I ever have a little alcohol, a little wine, I pay,
the
alcohol tax.
Right. So you're paying consumption taxes.
Yeah. These are all the local and state taxes of our state, of our country. Yeah, America's 50 countries in the union that pays for the police, sheriff, the court system, the firemen, the roads, all these basic things that most of us expect and rely on the government to provide. Those are all paid by our local and state taxes, like you mentioned. The federal income tax, does not apply to the 50 states people. It applies to the people who are citizens and residents of Washington, D.C.
Okay. So you've been under continuous criminal investigation for over 30 years. Sounds like the same amount of time you have not paid federal taxes. This sounds like mind-blowing to people. How have you not paid taxes and stayed out of jail?
Because I'm simply following the law, because there is no law requiring any of the people of the 50 United States like you, Robert, and me to file and pay federal income taxes to begin with. It's a deception, it's the lie. And since I know the law, the IRS knows I know the law, they do not want to try to indict me, take me to a jury trial, for me to educate the jury that there is no law requiring me nor them to file and pay federal income taxes, acquit me, and then publicize this fact to the American people through my jury trial acquittal. So they'd rather leave me alone, try to mess with me other ways, like civil investigations over money. And they had me one time for over 13 years. I was under investigation as an abusive tax shelter promoter. And they finally closed it in 2016. You just follow the law. That's the number one thing I teach everybody to do.
So what does the law actually say about filing federal income taxes? When you say follow the law, what law are you following that other people that are filing must not be following?
You see, America's founding fathers, Robert, were libertarians. They were freedom lovers. They had a revolutionary war for freedom and got rid of the King of England tyrant. And the
Bank of England.
And the Bank of England.
Yeah.
And these 13 states wanted to create an agent government, the federal government, for them to coordinate their actions of defending themselves from England in case it wants to take them back.
Right.
And some common needs of the states to coordinate them. So they did not want this new government to potentially become a new king. So they deliberately wrote the U.S. Constitution in a way that the federal government cannot tax the people of the states of the Union directly,
Right.
except by going through a lot of hoops, which they did that in the early 1800s, but not in the way they're doing it right now. So it's still in the Constitution that direct taxes must be divided up amongst the states. The federal government sends a bill to each state. This is how much to collect. And they would collect it from the people and give it to the federal government, minus a little cut they took for administering, collecting the tax. So the income tax could not be written for the people of the 50 states. So what they did is they wrote it for Washington, D.C. and its territories, because the federal government was given unlimited power to do whatever it needed to do on federal lands, which was meant to be primarily military lands, to protect the people of the states from invasion by England. So because they have unlimited power in Washington, D.C. and its lands, they are not restricted by the Constitution about how they want to tax any people that might be living or doing anything in Washington, D.C.
I see.
So they wrote the law, applying there, and they use the term any citizen of the United States must pay income tax. However, the term United States is defined in the law now, and even in 1913, that they wrote the very first modern income tax to not include any of the 50 states. Back then, it applied to Washington, D.C. and all of its territories. Over the decades, the territories all came out, and now it only applies to Washington, D.C.
I see.
But they don't bother telling you that, because who looks at the law? Everybody just goes along with the program. Everybody assumes that, they must mean me, just like the corona jab. Everybody assumed that it's a vaccine, but it's not a vaccine. It's an mRNA gene therapy, and actually it's a bioweapon. Okay, but who on TV land reads and thinks for themselves?
Right.
They just go along with the program. That's how they did it.
So Washington, D.C. is almost like a separate country, it sounds like. Okay. And then it originally had the authority to extract federal income taxes from territories, but not states. They had to extract, well, not people living in this 50 states, not 50 states at the time, but 50 states now. And so the federal government does not have the authority to tax individual citizens directly. They have to instead tax the 50 states, who in turn have to tax their citizens directly and then remit that to the federal government. Okay, so why doesn't the federal government just do that? Why don't they just tax the 50 states and the 50 states tax the individual citizens? Why do they go direct?
Because it's much more convenient and quick, and the states will not be a burden or hindrance to stop the federal government from doing so. They want to just go directly to the people. Why? Because in 1913, as your audience knows very well, they created the Federal Reserve, privately owned central cartel bank. And then they wanted to lend money to the government out of thin air, money made out of thin air by fraud. And they're going to charge 6% interest on that. Where is that interest payment going to be funded from? Let's have a direct income tax on American slaves. Okay, this way we can always directly make sure that debt is paid for. That's why they did it that way.
Okay, so most people today, I think most people still, they have normal jobs, right? They are W-2 employees of some corporation. They receive, weekly, biweekly, monthly paychecks. And in those paychecks, their federal income taxes and other things, Social Security, Medicaid, I think, are already deducted from their compensation. So people receive their net compensation, not their gross. And those taxes are basically extracted at the source. Like the people never even touch that money, right? It's automatically remitted to the federal government, presumably by the employers. What can people even do about that? It's like if most people are in normal jobs and that's how taxes are collected before they even get a chance to touch it, what can be done about that?
If people go to Freedom Law School's website, freedomlawschool.org, we have a page on there that shows people how they can fill out the W-4 form in a way that legally and correctly stops the employer from stealing any income tax from your paycheck to begin with. And now you don't have to file a 1040 form by next April 15th to try to get some of that stolen money back.
Yeah.
So I urge everybody, just go to freedomlawschool.org and it's right there.
So that's applicable to any U.S. employee. They can just fill out this form differently and get all of their gross pay.
Yep.
Wow, I had no idea. That's interesting. So I'm going to go back to continuous criminal investigation for 30 years. How much has that cost you relative to what you would have paid in taxes, do you think? I guess first in terms of money and then in terms of time and headache.
Let's see, cost me some ink and paper to write up the legal stuff and some postage and little minor filing fees because I did all the work myself. I never hired an attorney to defend me because my attorney libertarian friends who I went to back in the early 1990s told me, Peymon, you already know about income tax than what we were taught in law school. And I thought, what? You go to law school, they don't teach you about the Constitution and income tax? He said, no, they really don't. So I said, okay, then I guess I'm going to read the Constitution and the tax laws from my patriotic, freedom-oriented friends on my own and start applying it. So I just did it all for myself. So it never cost me anything. They've come after me, like I said, multiple times. I've had interactions with them of all sorts. I beat them in the IRS appeals office. I've had IRS lawyers back off. I beat them in the U.S. tax court and also the federal district court. I even forced the IRS to remove the criminal investigations subpoena of the hotel I did my event. They want to know everything about that event. I forced the Irish lawyer to have the Irish criminal investigator withdraw his request because he was violating our First Amendment rights. So I've had many victories, and it's all on my website at freedomlawschool.org. Another time, they came after me with over $660,000 back in 2009 for employment taxes. It took me 2 years, and the IRS Appeals Office and the U.S. Tax Code officially zeroed out, and all these about 10 or so pages of tax liens were all removed and zeroed out.
Well, so you do all your own, you represent yourself. And
Everything I did myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for people that can't do that, what I'm trying to get to here is like, there was some number that you were, I don't want to say supposed to, that you were, a certain amount of taxation that would have been imposed upon you, that you, what is it?
They came after me for.
Legally avoided. Right? The question I'm trying to get at is, what was the spend? What would the spend have been in terms of legal expenses for people that cannot represent themselves compared to that total tax bill? So if someone had to go out and do what you did without representing themselves, how much do you think they would have spent in that process to legally avoid how much in total taxes?
Well, that's a good question, because unfortunately, and I'm not trying to brag or anything like that, but in the freedom movement, I'm the only one left that actually does this kind of work. And I'm the only one in the history of the tax truth freedom movement who's never gone to tax prison. IRS never closed my organization, okay, nor have I quit. And so I did the work myself, and I can do it for people. In fact, we have a Restore Freedom plan if people want to join us, where we do all the work for them. We do pay attorneys as necessary, okay? And even if we were to lose the case and the IRS takes from them 10,000 or 10 million, whatever it is, we will fully reimburse to them the money that IRS took to them. So if people want to do that, you know, all they have to do is to, rather than giving the money to the IRS, keep 70% of that money and contribute 30% of that to our Restore Freedom plan. And then they got all this guarantee I just told you about. No tax prison time, everything we pay for.
Tax prison. So I thought debtor prison was something of the past, but they'll still throw people in jail for not paying taxes.
Oh, yeah. When you file a tax return, you can go to prison, and almost all the people that go to prison for tax crimes are people who were deceived by their accountant, CPA, or attorney to file a 1040 income tax confession form that's used by the IRS against them to put in prison, because it's all signed under oath. If you don't sign that form, you don't face 9 years of prison time for your single signature on one 1040 form.
Wow.
It's that gives the IRS the power. And the problem is, these professional tax people are the very people that grease the skids for the IRS to rape us by deceiving us that we should file this form and pay our accountant, CPA, tax attorney to defend us.
So, I mean, if I may, that sounds, when you say, here's a program where you can allocate a percentage of taxes you would have otherwise paid to the federal government into this pool, and then we will provide all these services and fully reimburse you and protect you. I mean, from an outsider's perspective, that sounds pretty snake oil-y. So can you just unpack that a little bit? Like, is this how many clients you have? How long has this been going on? Is this a successful thing? You said you have been under criminal investigation for 30 years. What about the clients? Like, what does this subject them to in terms of stress, et cetera? Like, I can imagine that would be a pretty stressful situation for people to be. You seem pretty chipper about it, but
it's not stressful at all, because you are liberated from having to keep records of every little expense as a business owner you have, with your bookkeeper, with your accountant. Gee, I didn't get this right, didn't get that right. You know, you don't need any of that stuff whatsoever. You're free from doing all this burden to begin with. And I've done this program for over 23 years, since 2001. And not even one person who ever came to me and stopped filing and paying federal income taxes was Freedom Law School for the first time,
Mm-hmm.
has ever gone to prison, tax prison, or ever had the IRS levy their bank account, paycheck, nor taken their crypto, real estate, any assets whatsoever. That's my track record.
So no asset seized, no people put in jail.
Yep.
20 years. How many clients?
That is a number I don't disclose
Okay.
because IRS, I don't want them to know how many students we have.
Got it.
So I keep that private.
Got it. Okay. What, so tell me about this experience of living under criminal investigation for 30 years. Like, what is that like? Are you just like actually dealing with attorneys and paperwork on a daily basis? Like, what are you doing on a day-to-day, month-to-month basis to deal with that?
I just go on with my life. I mean, they go on their own and investigate all they want, whatever they're doing back there.
Mm-hmm.
And they just spinning their wheels, getting paid for doing no work or nonsense work. That's all these government agents are.
Mm-hmm.
They're not really people to be afraid of. They should be afraid of us because they work for us. We are the bosses. They are the public servants.
Right.
So it's not like they call you every month or they write to you. No, it's not like that. I just know that, for example, back in 1994, when there was no Freedom Law School at all.
Yeah.
So I got a copy of the records he had on me, and it said, yeah, this guy apparently came to a meeting, pick up my flyers, and they started a criminal investigation on me. And they had meetings about me with different agents, like every couple, 3 months. And then after a year and a half, it went away. I did not even know I was under investigation until I obtained the copy of my files from the IRS and saw, oh, gee, I was under investigation all this time. So it's nothing. I just go on, enjoy life being a free man.
Interesting. Wow. The farm at Okefenokee is a revolutionary new regenerative agricultural community. It features an 8,000 tree olive orchard, which they use to make their own olive oil, as well as a very large pecan orchard. All the animals on the farm are heritage animals, with some varieties over 100 years old and others thousands of years old. Fresh eggs are produced daily by the farm's chickens. Also, there are over 1,000 beehives that pollinate the over 200 heirloom fruits and vegetables and provide honey to all the residents. The farm makes its own molasses, unrefined sugar, herbs, and spices. The farm also features an herbal apothecary and a commercial kitchen. These are just a few reasons why the farm is the healthiest place on earth. To learn more about the healthiest place on earth, go to okefarm.com and use discount code BREEDLOVE for $21,000 off custom cabin pricing. Again, to learn more about the farm at Okefenokee, go to okefarm.com and be sure to tell them I sent you. Forget multivitamins and other supplements. Animal organs are the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet. You can get 100 times more nutrients from organs than you can from muscle meats. But the problem with eating organs is that they are difficult to find in stores, they are difficult to prepare, and even when they are prepared well, they often don't taste great. Thankfully, Heart and Soil Supplements has made consuming organ meats so much easier by providing powderized organs in capsule form. Organ meats include everything your body needs to thrive: vitamins, minerals, peptides, proteins, and growth factors. This is why organ meats were the most prized foods for our ancestors. Fortunately for us, Heart and Soil makes these treasured foods easily accessible. So go to heartandsoil.co today and use discount code BREEDLOVE to get started on your journey to optimal health and vitality. Again, that's heartandsoil.co, discount code BREEDLOVE. Okay, so you're saying the filing of the 1040, which is the personal tax return, it's the signature on that document that basically is, I think, a confession as you described it. So you are instructing people, suggesting to people that they just don't file that document, so they don't sign that confession. And in doing so, the IRS and federal government would then have no cause or no legal reason to do anything to you because there's nothing in the law that compels you to file in the first place. What about all the other tax forms that people have to file, like the 1120s and partnership returns and blah, 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 blah.
Same thing.
You just don't file any of them.
You just not any of them. That's right.
But what if you're in a partnership with, I don't know, 100 people and 98 of them are compliant, normal taxpayers, and you're getting, you're getting K1s, or you're getting, like, what do? You yourself just don't do anything.
Yep, that's right. They can do what they want to do. You do what you want to do.
Okay. And then if you flip that, if you're running a partnership and there's other people in it that need to get K1s, you're just sending them K1s without filing any of it?
No, well, you just educate people. If you're the one in charge, you educate your employees or people you work with. Look, legally that would be wrong for me to send that form to you. Snitch on you falsely, you receive taxable income from me when you did not. So you just stop that. People say, oh, thank you.
Well, what if the investor is, say it's like an investor in a LLC or a partnership, and they want to receive a K1, which is the document detailing their flow through of income and expense from the partnership. Say they want that, just as a compliant taxpayer. What do you do in that situation?
There's more than one way to handle that situation. Yeah. One is you can give a piece of paper to them saying, hey, this is how much you were paid as a partnership in our partnership. You typically want it to be in the form K1, but that does not apply to you. But if you want, you can consider this, if you want to file a tax return, a K1. Here we go. You got a K1. You received $1 million. Now you want to go and take some of that and give it to the IRS? Be my guest.
You just write it just like that on a sheet of paper?
Write it out. Piece of paper, so here it is.
You make this sound so incredibly easy. And I feel like I'm surprised there's not millions of people doing this. Why do you think that is? Because,
of course, the international banksters who control the media in this country, with the money they also bought off the politicians, okay? They don't want the word to get out for American people to not be slaves of them. They want us to be slaves, serfs. So the major media avoids talking about this stuff. You ever see me on Fox News or CNN or New York Times? Of course not. They do not want to bring this out to American people. Give you an example. You and I as libertarians known for decades that the U.S. government is run by a bunch of criminals. And they are a criminal entity. But vast majority of Americans did not realize how crooked the system is until Donald Trump became president. And they did all this phony stuff, phony Trump-Russia conspiracy, Trump-Ukraine conspiracy, impeached him twice. Then they raided his home with the FBI. They put all his lawfare against him. They railroaded him. They even got a criminal case and convicted him through railroading and broke every rule of law with the crooked prosecutors and double crooked judges who allowed that to happen. And now people say, whoa, gee, the government's really bad. And people used to have in America high esteem for judges. Oh, the whole mighty judge. They always uphold the law. But no, they're a bunch of double crooked people because they are the worst. They deliberately, knowingly, that judge that put Trump, convicted him in New York, that he is violating every rule of law imaginable there is. But, so same thing with income tax. People are waking up and realizing, oh, okay, the income tax is just another area of lies, deception, of this matrix of corruption. And I just got to get myself out. That's all you got to do. I am Morpheus, Robert, you and the audience, you're all the Neos yourself, if you choose to get out of the matrix.
It's funny you use that metaphor because we often describe Bitcoin as the orange pill. Citing the same matrix metaphor. What is it? So, where do I want to go with this here? How do they do this? It's people are conditioned into just this habituation of filing these forms without ever asking questions. And so the IRS is just depending on that inertia. That people will just keep doing and imitating what other people have done and not really asking questions. And that's what this whole system is based on. You're saying.
Exactly. Just like the corona jab.
Yeah.
Most people who took the corona jab did it voluntarily.
Right.
They were not forced.
Yeah.
They were so programmed since childhood to give themselves vaccine, their children vaccine, their flu vaccine, and they trust and believe in the authorities, the government, the medical system, the judges, the CPA, tax attorneys. They just keep going along. And to stop is like, stop? I've done this all my life. What do you mean stop?
So it's a cultural conditioning process.
Yes.
I mean, another term I've used on the show is mimetic engineering, where like basically, well, we do see this a lot in mainstream media, right? Like you get these talking heads to repeat a message a lot. And then before you know it, all your not all your friends, hopefully none of your friends, but people around you will be regurgitating the same thing the talking heads on TV are saying. And it's like there's this, I saw this one around the pandemic time when I was living in Los Angeles. And would see this stuff on the news, and then you would see all these people in Los Angeles just repeating what was on the news. And that's when I was like, I have to get the fuck out of here because these people are massively programmed. I'm from Tennessee originally, and people just naturally distrust the government and authority figures. So I had to get back to a red state. You brought up Trump, and speaking of red states, what he's talked about abolishing the IRS. What are your views on the recently installed President Trump and his position on taxation, IRS, et cetera?
That is what Freedom Law School and a tax truth community have been saying, going back to even past World War II, that we don't need to have this communist taxation system to tax the American people and make us slaves. We need to go back to the roots of America, where the federal government was funded primarily by taxing imports and foreigners.
Tariffs.
The 1800, the whole 100 years there was primarily with tariffs. And what we can do is not only tax the import of items, we can tax universities that let foreign students come attend them. And those foreign students that Elon Musk wants to hire on an HB1 visa to work instead of an American will tax the employer and employee, the foreigner. So you got a choice of hiring an Indian guy for $80,000 and pay 50% tax, or hire an American for $120,000. See, and those foreigners, first generation, they pay a price, a ticket for coming to land of the free, home of the brave, of milk and honey. Okay, and so tourists come to America. This is the Disneyland of the world. Is America? They pay a tax also. And America, we have so many jobs.
Disneyland.
Everyone's going to want to come here, and we'd have no more slavery, income tax, or payroll taxes on people's labor whatsoever.
Calling America the Disneyland of the world makes me really want to leave America.
I mean, in the sense that, the Disneyland of 60 years ago,
I get it.
The fun place.
Yeah. Understood. So you yourself are an immigrant.
Yes.
You immigrated to the United States from Iran.
Yes.
Okay. When was that? Do you think the suggestion you just made too, was that a suggestion that would disadvantage immigrants coming into this country if they would be subjected to this university taxation scheme you just suggested? Like, how would you, I see that you're in favor of it now. Would you have been in favor of it when you were immigrating into the U.S. originally? How do you think about that? Sure.
Look at this. Every time I'm at a hotel in Florida, I talk often to Mate and the people that clean up my room. And they paid the coyotes, the drug dealers in Mexico, $10,000 to come here. And they pay, and sometimes the relatives put up the money and they have to pay him back. $10,000 for somebody from another country that's poor or middle class. That's like paying $100,000.
Oh, you're
for an
saying
American
to get into the United States.
To get in the United States,
Okay.
because they know in America,
Wow.
life is so much better
Mm.
than other countries on earth. We have it so good here that that immigrants would say, no problem. I'll pay any price. Let me in the land of milk and honey, and I'll pay whatever tax you want. So that will not be a problem at all. Foreigners will gladly still line up to come to America and pay income tax, and their children now who are born here, they won't have to pay no income tax whatsoever.
I mean, this is not my position, but just to be a devil's advocate for the sake of argument, what about someone who might say that America is such a great place to live because we have all these taxes? Like all these taxes go to the government and the government gives us all these services and free stuff. How would you respond to that?
Well, I would say, really? I mean, you saw the report came out a few months ago that out of federal workers, only 6% of them show up to work and work 40 hours a week. I mean, come on. To think that government employees work is an oxymoron. Okay? There's nobody there's no profit motive for them to be efficient in any way. They get paid the same, no matter how good or bad of a job they do. Everybody knows, except people who don't know, who are uneducated, that government is waste and corruption. The money belongs to you. You worked hard for it. You are the best person to know what to do with your money. These people have been brainwashed through the propaganda that we need the government. Government is the solution. No, government is the problem. Get the government out of people's way.
So if we went to this tariff-only tax policy where governments only generated revenues through tariffs, presumably that would lower government revenue a lot. So that would shrink government a lot. But I don't think it would solve that problem you just highlighted, that it's waste and corruption, because it's still, I mean, those price increase. So you're taxing goods that are imported. Obviously, those costs are passed on to consumers in the form of increased prices. The government's still getting this, extraction basically of purchasing power. Wouldn't you say that we just need zero taxation? Would that not be the answer? Is like just completely, why can't we just obliterate all centralized government and just have local consumption taxes and local powers? Why can't we do that?
Well, because unfortunately, politically is not feasible at this time. We have way too many people in America, old people, for example, who become dependent upon Social Security and expect that. So they're not, if you tell them you're going to get rid of Social Security, you're not going to even get off the ground. And that's just the reality of it. They believe they were lied to, that they put the money in the system, in a savings account, that the government pays them when they retire. Even though the money was spent right away down the federal rat hole of corruption and waste. It's not savings at all whatsoever. So it's not going to happen politically. As a libertarian, I would like to see that, of course, naturally. But to make it really happen, we need to take that phase approach to make it happen. And going back to Founding Fathers' vision is a way to go. In fact, Thomas Jefferson, the most libertarian president that we ever had probably, when his term ended, said his biggest accomplishment was that he was able to eliminate all internal taxes by the federal government. The federal government ran by end of his term only on tariffs and sale of federal lands, basically. So why can't we do that again? Which made America great. We can. We just didn't know that was available. Trump, thank goodness, got educated about this. Hopefully somebody will put us in touch with Trump, and we're going to help him implement this into law and have it happen. And America will become wealthy. Look at Detroit. All the good auto manufacturing jobs, middle-class jobs, from 1970s on, went out to Japan, Korea, and China. They all come back to Detroit, and Detroit could be once great again. That could happen to all of America with a tax on imports, and we can pay the higher price of items on imported goods. No problem, because we got a good paying job now.
Interesting. What would you you left Iran before the revolution.
Mm-hmm.
What was the motivation for that, and why the United States besides the fact that it's Disneyland?
Well, I was fortunate. I came at age 14 when everything was peaceful in Iran completely.
Okay.
And literally a few months later, the revolution started. So I had no idea this is coming. So I got
your
lucky.
Parents got you out before then. Okay.
To get me educated, to go to high school.
Got it.
I was 14 in 77, and to get ready for a good university education. That's why my father sent me. But then revolution happened in 1980. Israel and the United States goaded Iraq to invade Iran in an 8-year war. And I didn't go back because I could have been drafted into military. I'd probably been killed.
Yeah.
And America is such a great country. Why would I leave this place to begin with?
Sure.
But I love the American roots of freedom, our principles of freedom. America is so special. We've just forgotten, what the roots of freedom in America were about and how we got to get it back.
What was the Iranian Revolution fought over?
Well, Shah of Iran used to be a monarch like Queen of England. And after World War II, he was like that. But then there was a prime minister in Iran who wanted to nationalize the oil. 9% of the profit of oil went to their British companies that way back in 1800s bought the oil license from the King of Iran very cheap. So he wanted to nationalize that oil because the English oil companies refused to give a bigger share to Iranian people, Iranian government. So Mossadegh was his name. He, the prime minister, nationalized the oil, kicked out all the British, embassy people, the spies, and then the British could not do anything about it. So the British went to President Truman to do a coup d'etat in Iran, military coup d'etat on behalf of the British, but Truman said no. Then the Dulles brothers, two banksters, crooks, one of them head of a CIA, the other one was Secretary of State. They went to President Eisenhower and convinced him to do the military coup d'etat in Iran on behalf of the British oil companies. And they did that successfully. And they brought back the Shah, the King of Iran, got rid of Mossadegh, the prime minister, the democratically elected prime minister. And he became an autocratic dictator. So the revolution was a kind of a blowback of that whole situation U.S. started because everybody knew CIA is the one that did all this.
Right.
So this whole thing between Iran and America is caused by America, the CIA, who dug its nose and got rid of Iran's democratically elected government.
Wow. So yeah, spycraft energized by trying to steal energy assets, basically, right?
Yeah.
And then the people just wanted to throw off that. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So you arrive in America at the age of 14. What was your experience? I mean, I guess what were your expectations versus the reality of America? Well, I'm sure you had a certain picture of it in your mind when you arrived here. And then you got to see the real thing. How did that play out?
Well, first, I was blown away. I lived in West Los Angeles, in Brentwood.
Great place to live.
Great place to live. And I was blown away that you have all these roads with cement all over the road. In Iran, cement was expensive. To even build, you just throw it on the ground on all these freeways, and you have all these, you nail in the ground, all these lane changes between them. Like, whoa, you can actually, how do you do this? Prosperity was blowing me away. That was number one. Number two, when I went to college, California University in Long Beach, and I took up economics, and I read Milton Friedman and, the economics, and I found out, wait a minute, this America is not as free as portrayed in the TV series and movies I saw in Iran about America and the Westerns. John Wayne and Clint Eastwood, you can be all you want to be, do not violate others' rights, and keep your agreements. That's how it used to be in America. So I thought, this is not a land of free anymore. And I realized someone like me is a libertarian. So Not only I'll continue educating myself, but as soon as I became an American citizen in 1989 at age 26, first thing I did, I registered to vote as Libertarian and contacted the Libertarian Party of Orange County, California, and became activist in the party because we got to take back America. Our freedom's back. Otherwise, where am I going to go?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there is nowhere else in the world, right, with this level of individual freedom. I mean, at least historically. I don't know if it still stands that way or not.
No.
But the way the constitutional republic was founded was definitely unique.
You know why it's unique? Because America is the only country I know of on earth, any major country for sure, that the system, the Constitution, and the Declaration of Independence and Bill of Rights all recognize the rights do not come from government, okay, or crown, or some military dictator. It comes from our Creator. We're born with it.
Right.
All the laws in America are still written with that foundation. We just forget about that. For example, let me ask you, how many constitutional rights do we have?
How many do we have? Is this including all the amendments? I don't even know.
The answer is 0. Because the Constitution grants us no rights.
Oh, it just enumerates the rights that we already have.
All it does is there to guarantee the rights that God gave to each of us as when we were born.
Yeah, I like the way G. Edward Griffin describes a constitution as a piece of paper where you memorialize all the things that government is never allowed to do, right? You know, cannot encroach on the freedom of speech, cannot encroach on the right to bear arms, et cetera. And so that it's meant to be this immutable, absolute, unchangeable flagpole, basically, around which you orient the rule of law. Obviously, we've added amendments to that, but the Bill of Rights are really meant to be basically unchangeable. I mean, I think there is a mechanism to change them in there for unforeseen technological realities or situations in the future, but it's designed to be really hard to change.
Correct,
basically.
on purpose, right?
Yeah, hence the decentralization and all that. And yeah, it is unique, right? Because it's based on what they call them inalienable rights.
Correct.
Right? They cannot
rights
be
that cannot be taken away. You were born with them,
cannot
given to
even
by
be
God.
taken away or given away even voluntarily. You cannot alienate them from yourself.
That's
why
right.
they're inalienable. But the United States got off track from its founding principles, I would say, with the founding of the Federal Reserve in 1913. Shortly thereafter came the IRS. And maybe this ties into your story with Joe Bannister. So how did your experiences in the mortgage industry and financial planning contribute to your understanding of the Federal Reserve and the IRS?
Well, I was in college, and I was in a sophomore in college, and my teacher talks about the Federal Reserve and lends money to banks. And so, all right, in emergencies, the federal, they do that. And I said, well, where'd they get the money? And the teacher said, well, they just do it. I said, what do you mean they just do it? Where'd they get the money? He said, they just do it. And I told the teacher out loud, wait a minute, that sounds like fraud to me. And the teacher literally shrugged his shoulder up, palms up, and like this, like, that's just the way it is. So that's when I realized, oh, this is a scam. So then, back when I got involved in 89 with the Patriots, they taught me about the Federal Reserve. From more information, I read a book, Secrets of the Federal Reserve by Eustace Mullins. And I thought, oh, okay, that completes the picture. I was already on the track to understanding how it is. Yeah, but our destruction started with Abraham Lincoln, with his war of aggression against the Union in the South. There was no need for that war. That's what started putting the federal government over the states. It was meant to be the states over the federal government. And then, of course, as you said correctly, Wilson was one of our worst presidents. He did the Federal Reserve Act, the Income Tax Amendment, which was a deception to make people believe they got to pay income tax, but they don't in the 50 states. And the 17th Amendment that took away the state's power for the legislature of the state to appoint senators. So the senators used to be answerable to the states to protect states' power, sovereignty over the federal government. But now, with the people voting for them, they have no allegiance to the state. the allegiance to the big money who gets them elected to get the vote of the people in the States. So all those stars, and the World War I, same thing. Again, that was under Wilson, who was owned and controlled by the international banksters.
Yeah, I think we introduced passports around that time too. People could travel internationally freely pretty much before then, but then they started issuing passports to trace and track people's movements in and out of the tax farm, basically. Have you ever wanted to start a business in the Bitcoin space? If so, then the Wolf Startup Accelerator could be for you. Wolf is the first startup accelerator dedicated exclusively to businesses developing in the Bitcoin Lightning Network. 4 times each year, Wolf brings teams from around the world to New York City to work with like-minded entrepreneurs, pushing the boundaries of what's possible with Bitcoin and Lightning. The program is designed to help early-stage companies achieve product-market fit, develop their brand, secure early-stage funding, and grow businesses that fuel the global adoption of Bitcoin. Go to wolfnyc.com to learn more or apply today. Again, that's Wolf, WOLF, nyc.com. Bitcoin custody is evolving. Both self-custody and single third-party custody come with significant risk and trade-offs. OnRamp is pioneering a new standard, multi-institution custody, which eliminates single points of failure, adding fault tolerance and redundancy to your setup. OnRamp secures your Bitcoin in a segregated cold storage multi-key vault, guarded by 3 independent institutional-grade custodians, none of which have unilateral control over your keys. Your funds are fully auditable on-chain, cannot be rehypothecated, and can only move or be withdrawn at your explicit direction. Multi-institution custody removes the technical, mental, and physical burdens of private key management, providing unparalleled peace of mind for you and your loved ones. Bitcoin is money, and as the price continues to appreciate, OnRamp helps you seamlessly tap into financial services like trading, inheritance, insurance, loans, IRAs, and more, all without compromising on security or accessibility. Schedule a consultation with the OnRamp team to learn more at onrampbitcoin.com/breedlove. Again, that's onrampbitcoin.com/breedlove. Your relationship with Joe Bannister. I mean, who is this guy and how did this partnership evolve? What was the impact of his whistleblowing on your work and the broader movement?
Well, Joe was a special agent with the IRS's Criminal Investigation Division. His job was to put people in prison for taxes. He heard about income tax fraud on a talk radio show when he was driving as an IRS agent in California and called the guest, DV Kid, and DV Kid's book he bought, who mentioned Bill Conklin, who was a friend of mine. And Bill Conklin told him, hey, you should call my friend Peymon. That was in 1997. And I was in California just like Joe. So I thought, wow, this is a special opportunity to have someone from the inside who called me and says, I'm doing this on my own time. I'm not investigating you. I just want to know the truth about this income tax fraud that I heard on this talk show. So I started educating him. After about a year, he said, Peymon, I'm going to write a book about this. That's a great idea. He wrote the book, 90 pages, about income tax fraud and deception, how it violates American people's rights. And then after we edited the book, he said, Peymon, I gave it to my supervisor at the IRS's San Jose, California office to forward it to the commissioner of the IRS in Washington, D.C. to refute my book. I told him I cannot uphold my oath to uphold and defend the American people and the U.S. Constitution and their rights, and doing this as the IRS special agent at the same time to enforce a non-existent law. Show me where I'm wrong, please. I got to live with myself and my conscience and my oath. The IRS responded, we're not going to respond to your request. and he can leave if you want to. Like, wait a minute. This guy is supposed to enforce the tax laws, criminal tax laws. He wants to know what law is he imposing on American people. And you just say, you just blow him away. No, you don't need to know the law. Just do what we tell you. So he quit. I put him out there in our first Freedom Rally in 1999 in Newport Beach, California. And then news about him went wild. And so We the People Foundation, this organization had him come to DC to debate the IRS, Department of Injustice lawyers, Congress heads about the legality of income tax issues. And no one from government would ever show up to debate him.
Ever.
Not once. USA Today ads were taken full page by We the People Foundation about this issue and Joe Bannister. After 3 issues, USA Today told the foundation, no more ads for you. We don't want your money. So they indicted Joe Bannister. And in 2005 was a trial. They tried to hook him up to somebody who he spoke at his company about taxes. And it didn't work. I was at the trial. The jury acquitted him without Joe even testifying one word. He was acquitted. By the way, they never charged him for not having filed and paid federal income taxes. Because they knew if they did, he get to talk about it. He got to tell a story to the jury and get his book and his letter to the Irish commissioner all to the jury and educate the jury who would say, what? Unbelievable. We've been all lied to. So they tried to get him with a conspiracy charge with this guy named Al Thompson, who was a loose cannon. But that didn't work either. In 2010, they had him under investigation criminally again. And the head of DOJ's tax division was Rod Rosenstein, the guy who head up the DOJ when Trump collusion thing got going, hysteria, and his attorney general, left. He's got the crook. So we've been fighting the deep state before the term deep state even became vogue.
Wow.
These days.
So, I mean, a common theme I'm detecting here is the IRS/central government really does not want people looking at or thinking about the details of these actual laws.
Right.
That's why they don't. So that's such an interesting thing. They don't want to even, and this is, I guess, the loophole that's being exploited is they don't want to pursue people doing what you're doing because that will draw attention to the fact that what you're doing is within the bounds of the law.
Absolutely. I mean, look, my personal victories over the IRS, civil cases, not criminal. I mean, I beat the IRS without a jury. With a jury, it's much easier to beat the government because all 12 jurors must agree you're guilty. In the civil cases I had, or there was only one judge, and which are biased for the government. If they cannot get me there with their own appeals agents or with a judge, how are they going to get me before a jury? So they don't like the fact that I publicize my victories against the IRS. They say, no, don't look at Freedom Law School. Just go be a good sheeple. Eat your grass, your grains, watch sports and soap opera, have fun and party, drinking. Don't think about these things.
That's such an interesting thing that, the incentives of these centralized powers are actually to keep people inundated with the bread and circuses or keep them dumb and distracted so they can keep fleecing them.
Right.
But that undermines the actual productive potential of the whole society, right? Because if people are dumb and distracted, then they're not going to invent new things. They're not going to push humanity forward. They're not going to create a lot of wealth, basically. And so the wealth that's, in the attempt to steal wealth, you're actually undermining aggregate wealth creation. And so it's kind of like this cutting off your nose to spite your face sort of thing.
Not really. The reason they do that is because if private wealth, independent wealth grows big, the private wealth could challenge the status quo of the international bankers who own the privately owned Federal Reserve. The owners of Chase, Bank of America, Goldman Sachs, Citibank, Wells Fargo. They're the people that own the Federal Reserve as well.
Right.
So look at Elon Musk, one very rich guy. How much of a hair in the noses of these guys has he been by buying X and supporting Trump? Just one guy. If we had 5 Elon Musks, 10 Elon Musk, we could actually challenge and overturn the Federal Reserve Act, the root of the power of the satanic system. And they don't want that. They'd rather keep us dumb and weak so that none of us will grow up to be so powerful to be able to challenge them.
Yeah, I get that's the point I'm trying to drive toward, is in the attempt to maintain relative power or dominance over another group, you are inhibiting or preventing the absolute growth and power and dominance of the species.
Right.
We're hamstringing ourselves from a humanity standpoint in an attempt to try to make sure this group stays on top of this group.
But it's not us. It's international bankers.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
When I say I'm trying to speak kind of in the, correct. You can classify these groups differently. I was speaking from the general human standpoint, but I guess what I'm getting at is we are sacrificing the absolute potential of the human race to this relative power game. So it's very fucking stupid is what I'm getting at. It's like if you just stop stealing from and killing people, then everyone would be more rich and more prosperous, including you, right? Even if you're not relative, even if you're not the group that's on top and you're the group that's 3rd, 4th down the pecking order, you too would be more prosperous. You might not be on top of the heap. So it's like, it's the crabs boiling in water, right? Where the individual crab has nothing to gain from pulling the crab that's escaping the pot back into the pot, but misery loves company. So they do it. And there's this animal impulse humanity seems to have that we can't, I don't know. We need to wake up to that.
But these are the people that own the pot, and we're the crabs. And so they don't want to risk losing the control of the pot by letting any of our crabs get powerful enough to go outside the pot and get them, and then eventually free up all the other crab.
Yeah.
These are satanic evil forces behind wars, all this LGBTQ satanic nonsense that, you just cut off your parts. Somehow you became opposite sex. How is that ridiculous stuff gets out there? It's all satanic war against our creator God that made us in his image. Satan says, no, I want to make you weird. Satan has, horns. Satan is the LGBTQ. Yep. He has a penis and breasts. Oh, yeah. If you look at his image. I
have seen that.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. Yeah. So that these people are in power, they don't want to lose control.
So this is much deeper than just money and economics.
Yes.
This is spiritual warfare.
That's right.
I think it was either Benjamin Franklin or Thomas Jefferson that had on their family seal, rebellion to tyranny is obedience to God.
Correct.
And so this push towards human freedom, I just can't, I don't know. I don't understand it at all. I have no desire to control another person. It's like, I actually want to help another person be as free as possible. And therefore they can bring what they need to freely express into the world, right? Their specialization or whatever it may be. And then you can enjoy that. Like, this is the beauty of a free market. But I struggle still, even after almost, over 4 years of doing this show, I struggle to put myself into the mental perspective of someone that really wants to control and manipulate other people. Like, that is a very fucking strange impulse to me.
Because you're a good person. You're a loving person. They're not like that.
Well,
These people have, they had you pay a price to get that. That's why they use pedophilia to control you. They have politicians, Epstein, worked for Israeli Mossad. And so what they did, they had these politicians go there, they video them, and then you could use it to blackmail.
Sure, yeah.
So this is so rooted deep But bottom line is that my focus is more on getting rid of this deception and have Americans not be a slave.
Yeah.
Because once we get that, now we can do what you want to do, Robert. Empower the people to have enough money to challenge the status quo of the Federal Reserve corrupt system.
Gotcha. What were the most important findings of Bannister's investigation? It was whistleblowing and or investigation, right?
Yep.
What were the most important findings for him that caused him to leave? Was it just asking that question, like, where are the laws?
He found no law that requires the average American in the 50 states to file up income tax, one.
Right.
He, number two, he said that when we sign that 1040 form under oath,
Yeah.
we are giving up our right to be silent, which is guaranteed by the Fifth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, voluntarily under oath.
Yeah.
He said, look, when I was a criminal agent, if I want to talk to someone about his tax situation, I had to read him his right to be silent. That you don't have to talk to me because anything you say to me can and will be used against you in a court of law.
Right.
And he started thinking, what's the difference of that with a 1040 form?
Right.
That we tell people you sign under oath. You know, how come we do that? And he said that when he went after individuals in 5 years, he put 4 people in prison. All of them were filers, small business owners.
Fuck.
And the first thing that they always did as standard was request the targets previously filed 1040 tax confession forms, see what is in there to use against them. So he said, how did we give up our Fifth Amendment right to be silenced? So that was the second big finding. The third one he found is that the 16th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, which the government claims authorized the federal government to tax people directly like income tax, was never properly ratified. And it was not ratified properly. However, the Supreme Court has said more than once back in the early 1900s that the 16th Amendment of the Constitution did not give the federal government any new taxing powers. Since the federal government could not tax people directly back in the 1800s, you know, and the 16th Amendment did not change anything.
There's no legal justification.
How does income tax work?
So this is criminality. What a fucking, how ironic is that? The criminals are using criminal law to try to catch people. But all you have to do is
know the law,
plead the fifth, and then you don't give them any attack surface, basically.
You don't need to plead nothing. You just gave them nothing.
Well, I'm sorry, plead the fifth. That's a colloquial way to say invoke the Fifth Amendment. Don't say anything.
Just give them no information. There's about 80 million plus non-filers.
Right.
According to IRS's own best estimate, who made above the minimum filing requirement. Look at this. So the IRS knows you cannot go after 80 million people. And in fact, back in 2016, Robert, the IRS management officially decided to leave people who don't file tax returns alone.
Right.
And focus on filers who have confessed under oath.
Right.
With the help of the CPA or tax attorney.
Right.
To file a confession form because it's so easy to pick on that return and say, prove that crypto amount of gain you said.
Yeah.
Prove that deduction expense or thing you got here.
Right.
And the burden of proof is now on you to pay that same CPA who got you in trouble in the first place to try to help you out of this mess he got you in.
So not filing the personal 1040 return is equal to not confessing things you don't need to confess to the IRS and centralized government. What do you tell people that have just been filing their whole lives? Like, is there a statute of limitations? Like, do people just stop filing immediately? How far back can the IRS go in time? Like, if someone comes to you new today and they're like, hey, I've just been doing it the way I thought everyone did it, and I file the 1040 every year, what do I do now? Like, how do you guide them? You just tell them to just stop right now?
Same way as a guy who taking vaccines every year, get the flu shot, and now hears about the vaccines that are actually a bunch of lies, not good for you. What do? You just stop taking more vaccines. Stop filing those 1040 income tax confession forms. If you look at your 1040 form for last year, look at line 37. You sign under oath on line 37. They say, this is the amount that you owe. You signed it. You said it under oath. Without you doing that, you owe the IRS a big fat zero. Now, if they want to mess with you illegally, they have to create a case against you like they try to do with me. And that is so expensive because you have a right to trial to challenge that tax proposal. And you have only 31 U.S. tax court judges in America. There's no way these 31 human beings can do taxes, go up a case of 80 million Americans, even million American non-filers. There's no way. So they say, look, we have no choice but to leave them alone. And that's the thing that got to get out to people. They will leave you alone if you don't file. You don't need to be afraid of that.
As one of my business mentors once told me, the job of the boss is to eliminate confusion. The best antidote for confusion is access to truth, which brings clarity to business decision-making and thus optimizes the drive toward future business goals. Over 41,000 businesses have future-proofed their business with NetSuite by Oracle, the #1 cloud ERP system, which brings accounting, financial management, inventory, HR into one fluid platform. With one unified business management suite, there's one source of truth, giving you the visibility and control you need to make decisions quickly and effectively. If I was still a CFO, NetSuite is undoubtedly the ERP system I would use in my business. Whether your company is earning millions or even hundreds of millions, NetSuite helps you respond to immediate challenges and seize your biggest opportunities. Speaking of opportunity, you can download the CFO's Guide to AI and Machine Learning at netsuite.com/whatismoney. This guide is packed with useful insights and is free for you at netsuite.com/whatismoney. Again, that's netsuite.com/whatismoney. One of my highest health priorities is keeping my brain in top shape. To take care of my brain power, I do many things, such as striving to read, write, exercise, and meditate daily. One of the latest tools in my brain power toolkit is MindLab Pro. MindLab Pro is a nootropic supplement that is scientifically proven to enhance your brain power. When I take MindLab Pro, my mind feels like it has a better grip on the world, my thinking is more lucid, and the articulation of my speech is radically improved. MindLab Pro has been tested in rigorous, double-blind, placebo-controlled human trials and has been proven to enhance brain power for users in every age group. MindLab Pro is an advanced formulation of 11 nootropic ingredients and is backed by research from over 1,400 human trials conducted over the past 32 years. So if you're looking to enhance your brain power, MindLab Pro is an excellent solution. Go to mindlabpro.com/breedlove to start enhancing your brain power today. Again, that's mindlabpro.com/breedlove. So going back to that analogy about the jab, if you got the jab and then you subsequently learned that it's fucking poison, it's not just don't get any more jabs. There's also things you can do to like help get the poison out of the body, right? People can cleanse the spike proteins and et cetera, et cetera. Are there, by way of analogy, are there similar things people can do to cleanse the poison of past filings?
Not really. Just do the best job you can with your accountant to do the bean counting of your expenses and deductions and provide it. That's pretty much all you can do. But I'm a forward-looking guy.
Yeah.
I tell people, don't focus on the past. That's done. Focus on now and the future, and do not confess anymore that you owe the Irish money. If your accountant, CPA, or tax attorney scares you and says, don't listen to these guys, you're going to go to prison, you're going to be in trouble, ask him to go to Freedom Law School's website. Step 1, follow the law. Watch the 9-minute video I have on the law, 9 minutes only, and tell him, show me where Freedom Law School is wrong. Show me the law that requires me to file income tax to begin with. Why should I pay you?
Yeah. There's a saying, no man is better than his incentives. And if your tax accountant is telling you to keep filing your taxes, that's kind of like the barber telling you need a haircut, right? It's like, no shit. They're not, if, I'm not saying, I don't, this is all new to me, right? We're talking about this today. Obviously, taxation is theft. I think it's morally wrong. It's horrible and all this stuff, but I didn't know people were doing this. I mean, this is a whole new thing for me, but, you're definitely not going to get good advice about it from your tax accountant. That's just a conflict of interest, basically. Okay. If we look at the future, we mentioned Trump earlier that he's looking to abolish the IRS, perhaps. I mean, at least that was an idea that was flirted with before the election, I think. Where do you think the future of federal income tax is going? Do you think we're going to get more people migrating to this 80 million cohort of non-filers? What does the future look like in your view?
If I have anything to do with Robert, my goal has been since 1992, when I started educating myself, is to get rid of the income tax altogether by American people waking up and realizing that they've been deceived to voluntarily pay this corrupt empire in Washington, D.C. Okay? You just got to stop paying them. And that will, the lack of support by people will voluntarily collapse the system from within, just like the communist Soviet Union collapsed in 1991. Not from an outside source.
Bankruptcy.
But because the corruption of the system and rot from within. Irish is such a rotten, wasteful, inefficient agency. They don't work. They're broken from within. And it just takes a little extra push, but with the American people, and the system will collapse. For example, Irish's computers are the oldest in the federal government, and the mainframe brain of the Irish system is a 1960s COBOL assembly language technology still. Since 1980s, multiple times, they've tried to upgrade, improve their infrastructure of the IT system. They failed every single time. And now, IRS even stopped giving projection dates of how they're going to update the system. The system cannot be broken any more than a communist Soviet Union could be fixed from inside that Gorbachev tried to do. So I just want to push it, make sure it happens as soon as possible, properly.
So your goal would be to drive the average effective tax rate for a citizen in the United States to 0%.
The tax rate is already zero. People just got to realize, again, the people in 50 states, you don't have to file income tax. Realize that never applied to you. They use the term U.S. individual income tax. And you and I think, oh, that's the 50 states, United States. But in definitions in tax law, United States is the District of Columbia.
Right.
You thought it was you, but it's not you.
So in the event that we get that, let's say everyone wakes up and they're like, oh, I don't have to file anything. Explicit tax revenue goes to zero. I mean, not zero. There's still consumption taxes and the things we mentioned, but income tax and the other big ones, estate tax, go to zero. Won't the federal government just backfill all those gaps by printing more money? Well, like, isn't that what they've been doing up until this point? It's like this deficit spend, right? Like they collect $4 trillion in taxes or whatever the number is, but then they spend 6, 7, 8 trillion, and to cover the difference, they just print it. Won't they just print whatever they need to cover the difference?
They can, because that would utterly destroy the Federal Reserve notes garbage they give us as money, and will expedite Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies become the real money in the world. That's what they're running back against. They cannot do that. But there's the military budget is so corrupt. For example, back in 1990s, there was an audit of the Department of Military. $2 trillion could not be accounted for where the money went.
Mm-hmm.
That was 25 years plus.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, the whole Medicare.
Wasn't it the day before 9/11, the Pentagon lost $1 trillion?
That's right.
Yeah.
The audit of that whole thing
Yeah.
was in a section that was blown away. The report was
How convenient.
exactly.
Oh, how convenient.
Yeah. So we just we don't have to.
So the question was, would we print the difference if we lower?
They won't. They'll have to cut the government budget.
Yeah.
They have to fire all these employees that don't do anything and stop subsidizing all these corrupt organizations. Give me an example how corrupt the medical system is. My baby was in the hospital for 14 days. You know, when she was born dead, came back to life. We took her there for safety. We told the hospital how much money we can pay you. We need to pay you. How much does it cost? They will refuse to tell us repeatedly how much it would cost for our baby.
Oh.
And we knew if we insisted, they would kick us out of the hospital. So at the end of the 14 days, I go to them and they say, oh yeah, go downstairs and they got insurance for you.
Mm-hmm.
I say insurance after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
I used to sell insurance.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do that.
Yeah.
But let me go see what the scam is all about. Sure enough, the bill was $1.2 million
Fuck.
for 14 days
Wow.
for my baby being in an intensive care unit. I asked him, well, what's the cash price? We believe in paying cash. $100,000.
Wow.
So they bill the U.S. government $1.2 million, and the government says, it's too much. We're going to cut down 25 or 50%, pay you $800,000, $600,000. And the hospital goes and says, you fool.
Wow.
And it's a bunch of other babies. All milk money for the hospitals and the pharmaceuticals. That's where most of the budget of the of the wealth and in health and human welfare.
Mm-hmm.
It goes to the pocket of these corrupt medical system, the pharmaceuticals, the hospitals, who rip it off the taxpayer, the people of America, to the government. We can get rid of that. We can get rid of the military and just fire half the government employees easily. We have plenty of money left. No shortage.
Wow. It is a very radical vision for the future. But yeah, I mean, again, this is one of those things. It's like, if you really stop and think about it, you're not consenting to the transaction. You're not consenting to the price, to the calculation. At no point did you sign an agreement, like an employee agreement, like I am an employee of the United States and I will pay some, it wouldn't even be an employee. It'd be a customer, right? You're a customer of the
slave.
A slave. Yeah. Okay.
You're a slave saying, master, I swear this is how much I have taxable income. That's how much I owe you. Please don't audit me. Go easy on me. I don't have the money to pay my CPA to help me with an audit. That they sucker us into being every year give a slavery report under oath because the TV and our accountant, CPA, tax attorneys told us that's the safe thing to do to have the IRS not mess with you.
What about arbitrage? Like people that are moving to Puerto Rico to get a 2% flat tax, things like that. And there's other people I think that are, they call this multi-flag theory. There's all these different structures where you can spend certain amount of time in each country. And then if you split the time evenly enough, you end up with like low to no tax liability. What are your views on that? Do you think, I guess you assume that's unnecessary because you could just sit here and not do it?
Waste of time and money. I know people who did if you become a Puerto Rico resident and you're there 6 days in 1 month, you pay zero income tax there. Why do you have to live in this little tin pot island, Puerto Rico, over 6 months to be free? You can be free right here in America without having to do any of that rigmarole. Just stop putting a rope around your neck, give it to the IRS on that 1040 from you sign that you owe the IRS money. And stop them withholding on your paycheck for free at freedomlawschool.org, our website.
So you mentioned these 7 steps. I mean, I assume this is the advice, basically. If someone comes to you and they're like, hey, I want to follow your lead, you point them to the 7 steps, right?
Yep.
And so I'm just going to name these steps and maybe you could just elaborate on what they are. So step 1, follow the law. No law requires 99% of Americans, which would be anyone not in DC, I think, as you said, to file and pay income taxes. Okay, just starting there, could you just elaborate on that one a little bit?
They use the term United States in tax law all the time. Every time they use that term United States,
they're referring to the corporation, not the nation.
They mean the District of Columbia, the land that the federal government is sovereign, is their own country, literally their own country.
Yeah.
That's why Jake Lang, one of January 6ers, was 4 years in federal prison without a speedy trial because the Constitution that guarantees your right to speedy trial
not in DC.
Does not apply to DC.
Wow.
That's why they could do it to him. So that's the first thing for people to understand is the law. It is all based upon U.S. government's official legal website. IRS's website, the 1040 form, instructions, U.S. Treasury regulation, federal laws published by House of Representatives, and U.S. Supreme Court. No lower authority we accept except those highest sources of law. And you can see the 9 minutes on step 1 at freedomlawschool.org. That's a starting point right there.
Step 2, stop filing income tax forms. So I guess that one's pretty straightforward.
We covered that because you confess you owe the IRS money when you never owed the IRS anything. So stop confessing on a slavery 1040 form you owe the IRS money.
Right. So
there's no audit if there's no tax return.
Got it. So Fifth Amendment.
Yeah. In fact, because there's no law requiring you to do it in the first place.
Right. It's remarkably simple. Step 3, realize the IRS operates on deception and bluff.
Right. Over 99.9% IRS is bluff for non-filers. There's about 80 million plus non-filers according to IRS's own best estimates. IRS is such a broker agency. They do not have enough agents to answer the phone calls of people who filed, didn't pay the money, and want to make a payment plan. That's a customer ready to pay you. You could even take that guy's call. How are you going to make a case against a non-filer that gives him the right to a full-blown trial in tax court and appeal? It doesn't make sense. You're going to go where the easy money is.
Right. We
sucker people, deceive them into signing a 1040 confession form. Not much easier, but even then, IRS, doesn't have enough people. So this myth that they're perpetuated in the media through your accountant and tax attorneys, that if you don't file, you go to tax prison. They're going to take your bank account, paycheck, and everything you got is just a myth. And in step 3, I give people facts that from the government's own reports, everything that they're just the Wizard of Oz, and we were all Dorothy and her friends afraid of the Wizard of Oz that the media made up for the American people of the IRS.
So by signing that 1040 document, you're making yourself the low-hanging fruit for the IRS.
Yeah, especially crypto investors, because it is so difficult to find a good accountant to find the cost basis and the profit of which crypto did I buy and sell, how much of this much I bought here and this much here to sell this Bitcoin. It's just so complex, And so, in fact, for crypto investors, there's a trap on the 1040 form. It's called the crypto question. Used to be later on in the 1040 form. Now it's at the front page below your name and address. Basically, did you sell any crypto in any way? Yes or no? Tell us under oath. Either way, you did yourself in.
The question is, did you sell any crypto? Is that
in
the
any
question?
way, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, in any way, dispose, sell, exchange any crypto. That would be taxable in the IRS's view. If you say yes to that question, guess what? Congratulations. You just put yourself on the IRS audit list. They know there's lots of money could be made by auditing Crypto investors, crypto owners, the last couple of years, Bitcoin has gone crazy. They're just getting ready. Just let's go get some of those crypto guys and keep them in line. So when you say yes, you put yourself on our list. That's why it's on the front page. They can put you on the list. If you say no, you lied under oath now. And you can go to prison for 9 years.
Wow.
So what do? You damn if you do, you damn if you don't. Simple.
Opt out.
Opt out. Don't sign and send the IRS that 10-way form to begin with, and they will leave you alone.
Why aren't all the super rich doing this?
They don't know about Freedom Law School. Sorry, I hate to say this, but because you see,
but I mean, like the tax liability that a guy like Elon or Bezos incurs year over year, it's like, holy shit, they could save astronomical amounts of money. No one else on planet Earth has advised them, like, hey guys, if you just stop signing these forms,
because
you can save billions.
Their tax attorneys.
That's hard to believe. That's hard for me to believe.
Because the tax attorneys and CPAs control them. And they say, listen to me. I'm the medical doctor. Yeah. Don't listen to those anti-vaxxers. Get the jab. Like I say, the whole medical community knows medicine. Listen to us experts. Get the jab. I'm the CPA tax attorney. Don't listen to these tax protesters. They go to prison. It's literally that simple, even if they come across us to begin with.
So it's an incentive trap.
Yeah, these guys make money.
Sure.
The accountants, CPAs,
tax accountants don't want you to stop filing taxes, obviously.
Yeah.
Right? The barber doesn't want you to stop getting haircuts.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe that's why my barber never advises me to grow my hair out. If you're listening to this podcast, you probably get it. You get that Bitcoin upends everything that state-sponsored schools teach us about money. For those who get the importance of Bitcoin, it is important that we have a smart way to buy and hold Bitcoin. My friends at Coinbits, the oldest Bitcoin-only exchange in the United States, have pioneered the concept of roundups, which converts your spare change into Bitcoin. Simply connect your credit or debit cards, and your usual purchases are rounded up to the nearest dollar, letting you stack sats on every purchase without even thinking about it. Coinbits also provides a terrific self-custody experience. Connect a hardware wallet for automatic withdrawals into cold storage to minimize your risk and stay sovereign over your Bitcoin. My favorite Coinbits feature is Coinbits Plus, which gives you the best exchange rate on Bitcoin. It even gives you real-time feedback on how well you are doing on your savings plan. With Coinbits Plus, power users can save more money to buy even more Bitcoin. All that, plus peer-to-peer cash and Bitcoin payments, target orders, price alerts, and more means Coinbits can help you do almost anything you need to do with Bitcoin. So go to coinbits.app/breedlove to sign up today. Again, that is Coinbits, BITS.app/breedlove. Before starting the What is Money show, I spent most of my career as a CFO, overseeing internal technology implementations and business acquisitions. Over the next 10 years, it is projected that over 12 million businesses in the US will be sold. If you are an operator running a business generating between $5 and $200 million of revenue, and you're considering selling your business within the next decade, then there is a significant opportunity for you to deploy technology to streamline business processes, reduce operating costs, and enhance the multiple your business ultimately sells for. To this end, I am partnering with the team at Emerge Dynamics, a firm with decades of experience in maximizing the value of privately held, small and middle market businesses. Go to emergedynamics.com/breedlove to learn how you can build an attractive, high multiple company that maximizes your return when you fully exit. Again, that's emergedynamics.com/breedlove. Okay, step 4. Take courage from our victories. I think by hour, you're referring to Freedom Law School here.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Well, not only I've not gone to tax prison or paid IRS even $1 or filed with the IRS for over 30 years, but for over 23 years, I helped scores of people to stop filing and paying income taxes. And none of them who came to me clean and stayed with me has ever gone to tax prison, nor had their paycheck, their bank account levied by the IRS, or the crypto, real estate, or any property taken by the IRS. And I got many victories on our website. I actually zeroed out taxes for many people. One of the biggest victories I got is a guy who came to me and the IRS puts $4.6 million of tax on him. Totally illegally. We went to court and the IRS's own lawyer conceded the case and zeroed out the whole thing. So I got many of these victories on our website for people to see. You don't have to be afraid of them. And it was all done without an attorney.
So maybe this would be a useful point to try and answer my earlier question about the cost benefit of this approach. That guy that owed, you said 4.6 million?
Yes.
IRS said he owed. How much did he spend to get that liability zeroed out?
Oh, I think he paid me altogether about maybe, I think $10,000, $15,000 at most. That's it.
Well, yeah. That's a pretty good cost benefit ratio.
Yeah.
Okay. Step 5, question authority.
Yeah.
Exclamation point.
Well, we have these petitions, Robert, on our website for Congress to see. That's quote the law that the average American does not have to pay federal income tax, Medicare tax, FICA, Social Security taxes, self-employment taxes, no 1099s, no W-2 forms, no W-4 forms, none of that stuff. And the law is listed and attached and even highlighted at the back of the petitions. So easy for the congressman to see. We invite everybody to, for free, print out, sign, and mail them to your 3 congressmen, U.S. senators 2, and 1 House member. And the letters say, look, looks like the government is just scamming us. The IRS management, Department of Injustice lawyers management, and even some crooked judges. Now, either I'm right about this or wrong. If I'm right on this, stop them, because you can't. You have the power to fire all these guys. You have oversight of the other 2 branches of government. If I'm wrong, please show me clearly, specifically, and I will gladly pay the IRS my fair share of taxes. And this has been done thousands and thousands of times by our students and people on their own for free. How many times do you think a congressman has written us back and been able to show us that we're wrong about any of this?
What?
Not once.
So you said earlier, like, you're very future focused. But clients obviously come to you with, like, the guy that already had the liability. So how do you, I guess if they already have a liability assessed by the IRS, then you go to court and fight it. But your advice from the point, whenever they didn't file last, basically the strategy is very simple, just stop filing. But we'll fight for whatever you may have filed previously, but from this point forward, don't file. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And what happened to that guy, that $4.6 million guy? He hadn't filed. IRS actually used to come after non-filers to some degree from 1960s till 2011. For about 50 years, they did come after non-filers sometimes.
Then they decided the juice is not worth the squeeze.
Then IRS started an internal collapse.
Oh.
In 2010, Republicans stopped funding the IRS because they were doing they were not giving conservative groups these tax exemption status to their organizations. So Congress punished the IRS by not giving them money. They starved them.
Yeah.
And the inertia of corruption and waste takes hold over time even more so. Communism doesn't work. These are communists in the government.
Yeah.
So the IRS was forced in 2012 to gradually stop leaving non-filers alone. So I used to help a lot of people who came to me as non-filers to help them out. In fact, most of my efforts were done on those guys.
Yeah.
But I noticed a change in 2012. Less and less people are coming to me And after 2016, they're like, what? I'm not helping people who are not filing income tax. I'm going to get focused on getting new people to stop being slaves. So this confirms the IRS is collapsing like the Soviet Union. As unbelievable as it sounds, that is a fact. People can go on our website, freedomlawsuit.org, and see it all from the U.S. Treasury Auditor's own reports.
Step 6, join the Restore Freedom plan. What is that?
Well, I invite everybody to stop funding the deep state, the crooks in D.C. Don't file income tax. And the IRS leaves non-filers alone. However, certain number of people, especially people who are middle class or above, they say, well, Peymon, I would feel much better, sleep better at night if I had you with over 30 years of background of success in my corner. Can you back me up? So, and the answer is yes. In the mold of America's founding fathers, are created the Restore Freedom Plan, because that's our goal. My goal has always been political, spiritual, about having America be live and let live, a love and let love country that was meant to be. Okay, money was to me was always still is secondary. So the founding fathers, what do? They pitched in to George Washington's army, and Benjamin Franklin told the founding fathers, gentlemen, we shall hang together, or we shall surely hang separately. And they hung together, and it worked, and they made the colonies free states. So we need more patriotic, freedom-loving Americans, libertarians. Join in. Just pitch in 30% of what you would have paid the IRS into this fund. And we do this. The more of us do that, the better. And anything that comes up, we fight for you. We do all the work for you. Okay? You get to keep the other 70% and be completely safe. No side 1040 forms need to do whatsoever. Like I said, we do all the fighting. You will not go to prison because these petitions show you good intent to follow the law. With that in the record that you did that petitions, the government lawyers will not want to put you in a trial at all. So you won't go to prison, and I'll pay the attorneys. And if they do civil cases that come after you, we do all the work, okay? The law and writing of legal work for you. And even if we were to lose, they take your money, 10,000, 10 million, whatever it is. Whatever IRS took from you, we'll reimburse that. So you got nothing to lose. Now we got all this money to fund the freedom movement, fund freedom politicians like Ron Paul to get elected. Yeah, I was with Ron Paul way back in 1990s. I supported him. We'll be people like him, like Thomas Massey. Right now, he's our best man in Congress. We need to do freedom lawsuits and freedom news platforms that are getting the truth to the American people. So how are we going to do that? With all the billions that give into the swamp, coming back to the freedom movement to fund this peaceful war for freedom.
Got it. So that is like a community savings pool that's being
Freedom Fund. Freedom Fund, I call it. Yeah.
But then those people are members that are then able to draw against that pool should they have some type of tax litigation situation. Am I understanding that correctly?
Not exactly. We do all the work for them. And we beat them. I've beaten the IRS many, many times. If they come after our students, but they don't anyways. They're leaving non-filers alone, not telling people, look, you don't need to join. You can stop filing, stop them withholding their paycheck, they will leave you alone. But if you sleep better at night or you have it in your heart to want to fund the freedom movement, so we need money, bottom line, we need money to make it work, right? Then join the Restore Freedom Plan so we can fund all the freedom activities as well as protect you at the same time.
Interesting. If people aren't part of that and they join later, if someone comes to you with a liability, an IRS tax liability, you're still for hire to fight that. Is that correct?
I help people all the time.
Okay. Even if they're not part of the freedom.
They're not part of it, but
okay.
they got to join our program. Then I help them with the previous problem they got also.
Got it. Okay. Step 7, love and spread the truth.
You just heard this eye-opening information that is blowing your head gaskets. Like, whoa, this is great news. Didn't know it was even possible. Well, thanks for Robert. Now you know about it.
Well, I want to state very clearly, I actually don't endorse you or your work. This is the first I'm really learning about it.
Mm-hmm.
It does sound too good to be true to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know enough to refute any of it. So I hope it works, and I hope you were successful in your mission, because as I've beaten the drum repeatedly, taxation is theft, inflation is taxation, inflation is legal counterfeiting, counterfeiting is criminal inflation. Like, all these things are just the most horrendous source of socioeconomic problems in the world, so far as I can tell. So anything that helps fight that, push it back, get rid of it, I'm all for it. That said, the specifics presented here today, I have no idea. This is all you. And
that's right.
Take you at your word.
No, don't take me at my word. What I invite you to do is don't make the mistake I made when I first heard about Bitcoin about 9 years ago.
Do your own research.
And I did do my own research on Bitcoin because I was a gold bug. Ron Paul, gold bug, real money gold. Like my friend Ed Griffin has been telling all the stuff. I didn't check into Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Okay. Didn't do my homework when I first heard about it. But 4 years ago, I did. I said, I'm going to really find out about this thing. And I watched a few videos explain Bitcoin for dummies. I said, okay, I got it. So now that you heard this, it's on you to take a little time and do your homework. So that's why on my website, freedomlawschool.org, I put videos where everything you see is from U.S. government's official legal websites and reports. As you drive around, stuck in your car, dead time, listen to the videos as you watch the road. And when you get back to work or home at lunch or dinner, play it one more time on your smartphone and verify what I'm telling you is U.S. government's official legal website. You have to do your own homework on this. You should not rely on my word or anybody else's word. You have to read the government's official legal websites to verify it for yourself. Then you'll be free.
Very consistent with the Bitcoin ethos of don't trust, verify. So I do appreciate that. I mean, yeah, it's kind of mind blowing. Honestly, it's so unbelievably simple. And what I can't get my head around is why. I mean, I understand the incentive trap you described, but I can't understand why there's not at least some handful of people in the super rich class taking advantage of this, because they are the ones that have the most to gain. They're the ones shelling out the most in terms of tax liability payments. So that one I still struggle with, but it's definitely interesting. I mean, the argument too is often wielded against Bitcoin that it's complicated, but it's the value proposition of Bitcoin is incredibly simple, right? It's just money that nobody can print, like done. And so sometimes the argument is wielded at Bitcoin that it's too good to be true or too simple. Like what else? What am I missing? So maybe this is another one of those cases. I don't really know, but this has certainly been an interesting conversation nonetheless. Do you have any parting words of wisdom? And if not, whether you do or not, please let people know where they can find out more about you or your work.
Well, as you said, like Bitcoin, the thing is, it's a famous saying in the Bible also that people suffer for lack of knowledge. Ignorance kills. And the solution is seek the truth, and the truth shall set you free. The key term is seek. You must seek the truth. If you hear something that challenges your thing, you will not find out. When I back in 1992, I heard about income tax on a talk radio and Handle on the Law on KFI and radio. I thought, this is crazy, but why would people pay income tax if there's no law? So I called the lady and she said, I'll prove it to you with $40. You got to pay to attend the seminar. I said, $40? I was single and poor, 29. And I said, that's a lot of money. I mean, it's like $250 in today's money just to be shown that. I said, I'm sure you got something to sell and I'll be happy to pay you once you prove it to me. Do it for free. But nope. She said, you must pay. But if you don't think you're convinced, in your opinion, that the law says that, not opinion, not philosophy, I'll reimburse you $40. With that, I told her, you on, lady, I'm coming. My word, my judgment. She said, yes. I went there, and she gladly earned her $40 because she freed me for the rest of my life. So here, you don't have to pay me anything or anybody. All you gotta do is to make the time as you drive around, because I know you don't have time to sit around and watch the videos. Nobody does. You do it as you're driving around to and from work or errands. Listen to it at freedomlawschool.org, and you'll be free on your own for free. Or if you want with a 100% guarantee, Restore Freedom Plan, either way, it's up to you to make it happen for you and your family.
Peymon, thank you so much for this insightful, interesting conversation.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Robert.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, click here to find more just like it, and here to find our most recent episode. Also, make sure to like this video to help shine light on the corruption of money, and be sure to subscribe to this channel to stay connected.